For myself and many of the parents I've had the chance to speak to, the notion of balance can be tricky. On one hand, you want to be a present parent and really be there for your children. But on the other hand, you want to create time for yourself in that effort to maintain your own self-care. And let's be honest, your freaking composure, right? My guest today is well-versed in creating an authentic approach to self-care and parenting, both from a personal and a professional perspective. So let's get started. Welcome to the Juggle is Real podcast. I'm your host, Andryanna. I'm a career-driven mom of 3 boys who went from burnout to finding balance, and I am on a mission to help other parents enjoy the juggle of work, family, and everything in between with a little less stress and a lot more ease, joy, and fun. What do you think? Are you with me? Let's get started. Hello. Thank you so much for being here. I am so glad that you tuned in today. Our episode today is so amazing. We have a guest who is an absolutely amazing individual. Natalie is on the show today. She is a connected parenting coach and practitioner, a best-selling author, and a mom, amongst many other things. So to start things off, Natalie, please tell us about yourself.
Oh, well, thank you so much, Andryanna, for having me on your podcast. Thank you. Much gratitude to you. And yes, I'm Natalie Syrmopoulos. You introduced me very well. And my job is to help parents and families go from surviving to thriving, which can be so tough in this day and age, and especially if you have what's called a gladiator kid, which I think we'll dive into a little bit.
Yeah. So as a connected parenting coach and practitioner, you really specialize in what we call gladiator kids. So what is this? This was the first I've heard of it, although the more I learned, I feel like I do have one. So tell us, what is a gladiator kid and how do you know if you have one?
Yes. Well, first of all, that term gladiator kid comes from the connected parenting philosophy and Jennifer Clary, who's the founder. And when I first met Jennifer, I loved this term because it quote unquote labels our child in a very honoring way, but at least gives parents a sense of understanding and a sigh of relief when they hear what a gladiator kid is, because then they're like, oh, okay, just exactly what you just did. I think I have one too. And a gladiator kid is a kid who is super strong-willed, super feisty, super sassy, relentless, incredible negotiator, can be very defiant at times and oppositional. Everything that is incredible attributes for, let's say, a CEO for a business. But as a child and as a parent to that child, it is so tough to parent a child who is like that without stifling their little spirit. And that's why the term gladiator kid really helps to celebrate as well all those attributes. But through the connected parenting methodology, we can find ways to harness it and really, again, end up thriving with our parenting so that we don't go insane. Minor detail in your parenting.
Oh my gosh, absolutely. And I really appreciate it. When you think of a gladiator or, I'm thinking of like the movie in my head.
Yes,
That's just what comes up, but it's true. And how you explain it, these qualities are things that people look for, or they attribute to a successful person. But when that person and that soul is under your roof and, those attributes are, against, making their bed or coming to the dinner table or getting their homework done, it can be, it can be a challenge. And so it's so great to know that there are people like you who have really studied this and have come to an understanding that they're not quote unquote bad kids, right? And there are ways to parent these children in a way that might be a little bit different from other children. But even with say the most well-behaved children, the perfect child, if that exists, right? No, I don't think, but no matter, what our children are like, we can all feel the pressure of parenting. I know I felt it. I feel it often, right? So what is your approach when it comes to being that present parent, but also, promoting your own well-being?
Okay, this is a beautiful question. And if I may, I want to just span back a little bit, because what parents often do is they get caught between two different paradigms: the paradigm of how they were parented, what they grew up with, and the paradigm of how they want to parent their family right now. And there, in many cases, there's a huge gap for many obvious reasons. For technology now, just the fact that we've evolved as a species and blah, 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 blah. But really, the old parenting paradigm many of us were raised in came from a very fear-based parenting or guilt-based parenting, or very highly focused on reward-based parenting. And now a lot of parents are more aware and awakened and conscious of how they want to parent now, and they want to parent in a different way, a more evolved way, which is great. But how to do that is where it becomes a little tricky. And again, especially if you have a very strong-willed or highly sensitive kid, or just a very highly emotional kid, it can be very difficult to do that. And this is where I do the work with parents, is helping to bridge that gap in a way that honors the parent and their family, their child, their values, and still helps them actually manage the day in a very joyful way, in a simple way. And one of the things that really has supported me along my journey has been to self-care, and have that piece of self-care that is very much lost for many moms, especially moms, not just moms, but for many moms, it gets lost. For very obvious reasons, right? You want to take care of your family. You really want to do a great job being a wonderful parent, and you prioritize everything that needs to be done for your kids, your household, your partner, and you often end up being at the bottom of the priority list. Which, again, if we look at those different paradigms, our parents, typically our moms, used to do that. You have service to everybody, and then taking care of themselves last, or not at all at times. So there's a lot of generational implications here as well. And this is why I help clients bridge the gap between those. But what's important to note is, and this is this is a myth that people don't. It's interesting to know what people think about it, but it's to say that in order for you to be the best mom, you have to be the best you first. You belong at the top of the priority list too, because you matter too. When I say that, what comes up? Because a lot of people are kind of like, oh, but I don't have time.
Yes, a lot of guilt rushes in, I think, for many of us.
Yes.
Maybe those feelings that when you've seen other people who you think are prioritizing themselves, maybe you might have judgments against that type of a person, or judgments if you think that you want to be that type of person, but you're feeling bad because you don't think that you deserve it, or you're not worthy. All of these things come up.
All of it. And you can, and sometimes in some cases you might think, well, so-and-so, meaning my parents or my siblings or my kids' parents, seem to handle it okay. And they seem to be like, taking care of themselves and the kids, and they have no issue. So, maybe I'm doing something wrong. And then there's just this cascade of really nasty self-critical stuff that can come into play. And that is where we start to do the work with self-care. That is, and to be honest with you, Andrea, a lot of moms, when I say, oh, self-care, similar to what I just said before, they say they don't have time for it. Similar to what you said, they may not think that they're worthy of it, or think that it's a priority, or think it's selfish. But the truth is, self-care is the best way that you can care for others. Think about it this way. If you are giving and you're supporting your family and you're doing all the stuff from a very empty cup, you're kind of giving them the crappiest version of you in many cases. And if not, if you're able to do that and not take care of yourself, at some point you will crash. So
run out of steam.
You'll run out of steam. So, and this is what I say to parents is, that's going to happen. It's inevitable. That's going to happen. So why not do some of the practices that can help set yourself up and your family up for success? Wouldn't you want to show your kids what it looks like to stand in your worthiness, to stand in their worthiness, to be able to put up boundaries for yourself so that they learn how to put up boundaries when it comes to dealing with their friends and whatnot? There's a lot there. Self-care has so many layers to it, but that just gives you a bit of a gist of it.
Well, I really love everything that you're saying, especially, looking to, the paradigms of how we were brought up, or perhaps, the person who we're parenting with. Our partner might have different ways that they want to parent the children. Yes. So there's so much that comes into play. And I love your approach to, fill up your cup first, and then you have so much more to be able to share with others. And it was a concept that I thought I understood, but it wasn't until I really actually started my own self-care practice that I realized how much more I could do, and how, when we're talking about that authentic approach to parenting, it also goes hand in hand with an authentic approach to self-care, because 100%. We know the term self-care has been so overused, yes. and it can also sound a little bit cliche in some cases. And so I almost hesitate to use that, but it is the best way to explain it. But sometimes, it can be in inauthentic ways. So yes. Tell us what you refer to those inauthentic ways as just coping.
Yes.
So what is coping versus actual authentic self-care?
Yeah. Oh gosh, that's a great question, because a coping strategy, first of all, many don't realize that it's a coping strategy. It's just something that they do, that they think they're doing some kind of self-care, but it's not a sustainable way of filling up your cup. So I'll give you an example, and I have a whole self-care program on this that I take clients through. It's a very immersive program, because this is changing paradigms that we are not even aware that we may have. So I'll give you a quick example. When I, and many of my clients do this, but I'll share for myself as firstly. When I thought I was doing self-care for myself, when I started this journey, what I deemed as self-care was I would put the kids to bed and I would go by the couch, sit down, have maybe a glass of wine possibly, and just veg out. And I just wanted to decompress. And rightfully so. It was a hectic day right from the get-go. So many things were going awry and whatnot. And it's just, I needed that time to decompress. However, when there's a certain energy behind the action, and I'm not saying that watching TV or drinking wine is bad for you. I'm not saying that at all. The energy behind when I was doing that and why I was doing that was to kind of subdue everything else that was happening to the day. And that energy comes from a state of like a very low vibrational frequency. So it's very much like in a space of sadness, in a space of like sometimes even anger and resentful. Like I spent my whole day, I only finally get right now to spend time with myself, and it's like 9:30 at night or whatever. And that way of doing those activities deems it as a coping strategy, because you're just suppressing what is really going on, which is, again, very understandable for so many parents, because it is a tough job. It's a really tough job, and it's understandable. However, similar to what you said, when I started to switch that and shift my practices to a more authentic type of self-care, which I'll get to in a moment, the benefits that rippled out, I got more time, more energy. If you're new to self-care practice, authentic self-care practices, you're going to be like, no way, Natalie, there's no way. Yes, trust me, you get more time, more energy, more calm. Your bandwidth to be able to manage, especially that gladiator kid, is expanded so that you can handle your day, not just handle it, but actually really rock it. And that's when I started leaning more into authentic self-care practices, which, by the way, can still include some watching TV, but the energy behind it is so different. And I have other priorities that I know help to fill my cup in a much more meaningful and sustainable way.
Oh, I love this so much. I feel like you're speaking to my soul, and I love it so much. I think that, and these are things, I'm sharing my journey in going from like this, burnout state to a more balanced state. And it's balanced, but it's on a daily basis. And so I realize that, some days when I am like, when my schedule is more full, sometimes I do kind of fall back in those old ways, and I do forget those things, those practices that for me are the ways that I fill my cup. So if I, for instance, miss my yoga in the morning, then I do find that it shows up in the rest of my day in not the best of ways, right? Or the things that I'm doing for myself. If I'm neglecting myself, I find that I'm not showing up in my best light for everything else that I'm doing. So for the people listening who are like, okay, I'm ready, I want to do this. Perhaps I'm coping, I didn't realize. So okay, if this is what I was doing, maybe I was binge watching Netflix until 11 o'clock at night. And then I would wake up, for work, or wake up with my children, and I'd be exhausted because I was, up late doing that. Or what can I do? So this authentic self-care, what can we do today to start creating a self-care strategy, putting a plan in place, something that works with the demands of life, both parenting and our careers and everything else? What can we do to incorporate this in a way that's really going to work with our life? What would you say to that?
For sure. This is another great question. And my job, when I work with parents, my job is to help make their lives easier. And I was literally just talking to a client about this. And it's a very personal self-care, an authentic self-care practice is a very personal journey. So I'm going to share some stuff that the audience can do and for sure take on. And it's a very personal practice. Only you will truly know. And this is the astonishing thing that doesn't really surprise me anymore now that I've been doing this for a while, but a lot of people don't really know what brings them sincere joy. So when I list 5 authentic practices, it's not for you to just go and try those and like, that's what Natalie said, just go try. You have to like sit with it for a little bit and see what really lights a bit of a calm, peaceful fire in you. So I want to share a couple of the self-care practices. But before I do that, there is something that I want to make sure that if you're listening to this, please, and if you notice now, based on our conversation, that similar to what you just said, you're using it more of a coping strategy, please it's okay. We all do it. We've all done it. Okay. So don't be hard on yourself. Forgive yourself for that. And now that you know better, you can do better. So what are some things that you can do? 1, meditate, whether it's guided or self-meditation, okay? 2, and I'm not numbering these, like you have to do these in order at all. Like, these are just some suggestions, okay?
These are options, merely options.
Yeah,
in no particular order.
No particular order. Whatever works for you, okay? The other thing you do is journal, okay? Another thing you can do is just practice gratitude. As simple as that. Yes, yoga is another beautiful one. Getting outside, going for a walk, being in nature. And there's a lot of science behind this. Okay, we're not really diving into this, and I do dive into it in my course. But there is science behind this. And I'll give you a quick example, okay? And I want to leave I want to leave people with something they can do right now. So when I started my self-care journey, it was not first thing in the morning, because I was not using really authentic self-care. I was staying up late. I was doing the Netflix thing, blah, blah, blah. And I would wake up when my kids wake up. So how I started it was I just took 5 minutes out of my day and I did the 5-minute journal. Now, is it better to do it in the morning? Absolutely. And I now know that, and I know the science behind it. But if you can only spare 5 minutes of the day, and you're not really a morning person right now, just choose any time of the day and do the 5-minute journal. If that's not even available for you right now, what I would suggest is you list 3 things, either in your mind or in a notebook, that you're grateful for. And the best way to do this with consistency is to habit stack it. So you want to stack it on top of something that you're already doing every day. So what are some things that people do every day? Usually brush teeth. That's a good one. Okay. Or wash face, or have a cup of coffee or tea. Those are things that a lot of people do almost every single day of their life. So what I'm asking you to do is just during those very habitual things, list 3 things that you're grateful for. And can I share the science a little bit behind it? Is that okay?
I would love to hear, because this is so interesting to me. These are things that I have incorporated that have helped me. I don't really know why it's helping so much, but yeah, tell us, please, Natalie.
Okay, so behind gratitude, and I'll just focus on gratitude. Behind gratitude, the part of the brain, the neurology behind it is, there's a part of the brain called the reticular activation system, the RAS. And that part of the brain is like a neural network for receiving what you tell it to receive, because there's so much stimuli in the world, and its job is to hone in just what we want it to hone in on. The challenge is, a lot of us have an inner critic, an inner dialogue that is not in alignment with gratitude. So if we could tell our reticular activation system what to look in for, what to harness in on, we have a better chance of continuing to see that and continuing to invite it into our lives. So here's a little tip that I want to give to help amplify that. Okay. And it could be, by the way, gratitude, it doesn't have to do anything with your family if you don't want it to. Okay. If you're having a really tough day and the sleep was crap and your kids are up or whatever, it could be anything. It could be that you have 2 beautiful eyes that allow you to see. If you're brushing your teeth while you're doing this, it could be that you have an abundance of water that allows you just to brush your teeth with ease. So my pro tip for this is, when you do it, solicit some emotion. Okay. It's the same sort of emotion that you want to bring in when you're visualizing. I call it e-visualizing, because you're bringing emotion into the visualization. Same with gratitude. So you want to really feel how grateful you are for having two eyes that allow you to see, or two ears that are allowing you to listen to this. And really just take a moment, you put your hand on your heart. We're electromagnetic beings, that also makes a big difference. And just really sit with that for a moment.
Natalie, I am so grateful for you. First and foremost, this conversation has been so beautiful. Yes, hand on my heart. And what you're saying has really, I think is going to be really helpful for so many people. And it's really linked a lot of things just for me. So, that is exactly how I started, was with gratitude. And I started waking up before my kids, and you can get into this more, I'm sure. And we're going to have more conversations, but, waking up before my kids. And a lot of the time my gratitude would start with, I would write, I would write the date. I will write, today I am so grateful for, and I would say 9 times out of 10, when I first started practicing gratitude, grateful for this hot cup of coffee. Because as a parent, you've done the reheating your coffee multiple times, and then you just give up on, you're like, I guess I'm not having a coffee right now. This is ridiculous. This doesn't taste good anymore. So I would just be like, and I could really get behind that. The feeling behind actually having that hot cup of coffee in peace. And then it would just really snowball from there. I would look out the window, and even if right now it's freezing out, but the snow, or right now it's sunny, even though it's really cold, and the emotion, it really comes behind that. And I start that in the morning. But what we have started, my husband and I recently, thanks to my brother and sister-in-law, who gave us a deck of gratitude cards at Christmas, we've started at supper doing this with our children. So we'll all take a card, and they have beautiful pictures, and so I'm grateful for my home, I'm grateful for my teachers, and just little things. But then it really helps to expand that conversation, and it really has brought the self-care and the gratitude, and it really links it to being a present parent, and it starts those conversations, and then it helps to instill those qualities. And like you're saying, the RAS, maybe it's helping your children believe and have that more grateful mindset, as they are experiencing their day in other ways. So that has been something that's worked really well for us lately.
Yes. And you're modeling it, right? You're modeling it too. We do something very similar at dinner time. We don't have a lovely deck of call cards, but I'm interested to know about those. We go around and we talk about something that your favorite part of the day, something that you're grateful for, and something that you're looking forward to. Because it solicits, and a lot of, when I've introduced this to clients, a lot of them say, oh yeah, I do the rose, bud, and thorn. I don't know if you've heard of that. And my invitation is to replace the thorn, because it's very similar, but the thorn focuses on what didn't go well. Let's focus in on what did go well, and let's continue that momentum, that flow of oxytocin in your body, with looking forward to something that you're really anticipating with joy. So there's a couple of things you can do there. Okay. Lots of things.
So many helpful little tips, so many things that we can start doing right now. And I think, we're talking about this from the perspective of, being parents with younger children, but this type of thing, I think you should be exploring it no matter your age, regardless of whether you have children or not. There's, it's a difficult time of year for many, and having something to look forward to, creating things to be able to look forward to, in a time when, there's perhaps, people with seasonal affective disorder or different things are happening, having that day in your calendar, or that experience, or something that you can, really have those warm feelings towards, helps in so many ways. Absolutely. So Natalie, we've just skimmed the surface.
We have. There's so much more we could talk about.
So many more chats, but you have, I follow you with on social media. You share a lot of great information. How can people reach you if they want to learn more, if they want to carry on this conversation with you?
Yeah, so they can reach me on my website, which is www.evolvingwithnatalie.com, or on IG, which is Evolving with Natalie. Those are the best ways to connect with me. But I will give links and whatnot so that your audience can reach me whenever. And of course, like I said, I have a ton of resources, not just on IG or on my website, but there's a lot of stuff that I can support with. I have a course coming up on self-care specifically, which is been life-changing for so many mamas, and not just mamas, to your point, right? Anyone who wants to invite and is ready for making a shift in their life, this is a wonderful way to be supported in it.
Oh, I thank you so much. And I am going to put those links and that information in the notes for this show episode. So feel free to check that out and check out Natalie online. I am truly so grateful for this discussion that we've had. Thank you so much. Yes.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I really enjoyed it. Thank you.
Thank you so much for tuning in to the Juggle is Real podcast. If you liked today's episode, please rate it, write a review, and share with a friend who you think could use a little help too. Until the next episode, you can find me on Instagram. My handle is Andryanna G. That's ANDRYANNAG. Until then, take good care.